turn into a mukbang. Are you drunk? Not friends, but just having... Love that you just did that.
Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Nicole if you've never been to the channel, and this is my friend Taylor.
Hey.
She also has her own YouTube on YouTube, which is Taylor Francisco, so definitely check her out. But today we are going to be talking about toxic relationships and how it affects us and just our own experiences, and we're just going to like casually talk about it because we want this to be a real talk. Just between two people that have different experiences, and yeah, so I guess we'll just get right into it. Also, if you guys could please subscribe to the channel, as I will be posting videos on the regular, and also please give us a like if you like the video, and also comment what you think. And yeah, so let's get right into this talk. Let's just start the conversation. What are your experiences with toxic relationships?
Toxic relationships as a whole, or like romantic?
Yeah, I guess there could be different types of toxic relationships, but like, let's start with romantic.
Romantic, I think we're all familiar with toxic relationships, but the thing that I've realized now, getting a little bit older, is that it's not necessarily a person trying to be toxic, or they might not be vindictive or wanting to be that person, but I think sometimes just two people don't fit for each other and they end up being toxic. Or maybe, I think in my own experience, like, I've even been the toxic person. I think everyone has too, so I think that's important to mention also, because we should make it clear that we're not trying to play the victim here. Like, everyone's made mistakes.
I feel like everyone has made mistakes, and everyone has like some sort of toxic behavior that's learned from how you grew up in your childhood. So I definitely don't think you should feel bad if you've been in these situations, because it does happen to a lot more people than you'd think.
But in terms of romantic relationships, definitely like every single relationship I've been in has been pretty toxic.
Really?
Yeah, besides the one that I'm in now. But I mean, like, if a person is making you feel like you're not good enough, or that you have to compete with someone, or that you're... Oh my god, there's thunder.
The thunder is also really bad, so please don't mind it.
I'm so sorry. Should I like re-say that?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, should I close the window?
I don't know, will that make a difference?
I feel like the thunder's pretty loud.
Okay, maybe we'll just suffer with the heat. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, I'm so sorry. One moment. Okay, it's actually significantly quieter now.
That's better.
Yeah. Okay, what was I saying?
You were saying toxic relationships and...
Oh, just... should I restart the whole thing?
Yeah, maybe just start from the top.
Okay, so I would probably say that every relationship that I've had before this one has been toxic. I think it's just a mix of guys who made me feel like I had to compete with other women, or made me feel like I was clingy, or didn't care enough. And I also think that I put on this mask as if I were so chill and I didn't care, because I felt like they didn't care enough, so I didn't want to come across as showing too many feelings, which you should never feel like that in a relationship. I feel like you should feel so open and excited to share, and you should want to tell them exactly how you feel and want to tell them how much you care about them.
Yeah.
If you're afraid because they're not giving you the same, then I think that's already toxic, because you shouldn't have to...
I also feel like if you're in a relationship and you can't talk about something serious that is detrimental to your relationship, then I feel like that's kind of like a red flag, because if you can't even talk to your significant other who like you're wanting to spend the rest of your life with or whatever, I just feel like that's detrimental to the relationship, because if you can't talk about certain serious situations, then I feel like, what's the point? Like, what's gonna happen if you guys have kids and you guys try to have like a serious conversation? Is it gonna be positive or negative? Like, I feel like it's very important to be able to talk to your partner about serious topics that make you feel comfortable in the relationship and feeling secure as well.
And I think going off of that too, if you try and voice your feelings and that person gets offended, or they start getting defensive, like you're already off to a bad start, you're already not on the same page. You should be able to say, hey, you did this and this hurt me, how can we fix it, and vice versa. So if the person starts getting defensive and thinks that you're arguing, because there's a huge difference between starting a fight and just voicing your opinions. And again, it's one of those like pick and choose your battles. You're obviously not going to nitpick at every single little thing, but if it hurts you, it hurts you, and it's valid, and you should mention it, because your partner shouldn't want to hurt you. And most times it's not intentional. Most times it's just they said something in the wrong tone of voice,
Yeah.
or maybe they did something not thinking that you would care and you did. So I think just being able to voice that is so important.
Regardless if you have different views on certain things, I feel like you should still be able to meet in the middle and then still love each other and feel stronger at the end of the day.
And I think it gets toxic when a person will spin it on you, and so when you're trying to say, oh, you did this, that hurt me, they're like, well, no, actually you did it to me. Or when they try and spin it or try and always play the victim, and then somehow you end up consoling them. Like, for example, in the past I've had where I've expressed myself and then they're like, oh, well now I feel horrible about myself, now I feel like I'm a bad boyfriend, now I feel this and that, and then I ended up having to comfort them. So I feel like that's also important.
So it almost like gets switched around where it's like the heat is on you now, and you like feel bad for them in a way, and they're like kind of moping and being like, oh, I'm such a bad boyfriend.
In that voice too.
It's crazy how you find yourself in like these toxic situations, because it's not like you grow up and like ask for it. You're not like, oh, I want to end up in this relationship where I'm fighting all the time and like feeling restricted and just feeling controlled or whatever it may be. But like you do find yourself in those situations, I feel like, because it's based on what you observed as a child as well. That's how you learn your love language. That's how you learn like who I guess you're looking for as a partner. And I feel like in certain circumstances, the reason why I found myself in a toxic relationship, and I feel like I had a really like low self-esteem, so I was willing to accept something lower than what I actually deserved, right? So I feel like that's how a lot of people find themselves in these toxic situations, because it's two people who are broken, who are trying to make it work, but are also dependent on each other to make each other happy. Right?
And I think also your childhood I think in your childhood you kind of learn what you want to tolerate and what you don't. And I also think that you can break the cycle. I think a lot of people get caught up in saying like, oh, my childhood was this way, so now I'm gonna act this way, or you know, I saw my mom treat my dad like this, or my dad treat my mom like this, so that's what I'm gonna deal with. But it doesn't have to be like that. I think way too many people get stuck in like, oh, this is just a cycle, I'm broken because I had a broken childhood. It is what it is. Like, that's not what it is. You can change it at any time. Just the fact that we can recognize that like our childhood traumas affect us, I think that's already a step in the right direction. And also the fact that we can work through it. Like, I feel like you and I are very similar in that way, where like we're really self-aware, but a lot of people aren't.
That's true.
And I think if you're really self-aware and you're with someone who isn't, that's also just not a good mix, because they're gonna drag you down and you're gonna want to help them, but someone has to help themselves first. And I also think, going off of that if you're not whole as a person going into a relationship, the other person's not going to make you whole. They're not going to make you better. You have to make yourself better. And I think for me, the reason why this is probably my healthiest relationship is because I went in being so sure of myself, being confident, knowing what I bring to the table, and knowing what my boundaries are, what I'll tolerate, what I won't, what I want, and I'm not accepting anything less than that, and also what I want from myself. So I think to avoid the whole toxic situation, being really, really self-aware is important, and also knowing your boundaries, because you could love someone and like still have boundaries, but if you love someone and you kind of let your boundaries go little by little, it's not going to be a good situation. And I feel like you're just going to end up resenting them for changing your boundaries and for making you unhappy.
I've totally been there though, because I was the type of person, I did not have boundaries whatsoever.
Me neither.
Like, I grew up where I was like the people pleaser. I was such a pushover, and I think that stems from like I was always trying to impress my mom to like be like the perfect child, and like nothing I did was ever good enough. So I almost feel like that translated to me growing up and like always wanting to like be up to par with people's expectations, or what I thought people's expectations were. So I guess going into relationships, it's like I was always trying to please this person, but it was never good enough. But that's just like the same cycle continuing until you realize that you are good enough.
When you're seeking validation, you're going to take anything that makes it feel like you're loved. You're going to take anything that makes you feel special or that makes you happy for a second, and then you're going to ignore all the bad stuff because you like that feeling. So again, it's just knowing that you can validate yourself and that you don't need validation from people. I think that's a big one in terms of getting into relationships. Because if you're seeking validation from someone else, if they're in a bad mood that day, you're not going to get the validation, and then it's going to ruin your day. So you're putting your happiness in someone else's hands. If you
Yeah.
always have it in your hands, then you're always in control. So someone's bad mood is not going to control how you feel that day.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like there's almost a fine line between like, are you in control of my happiness, or like, are we just happy together because we're both whole? You know, I feel like there's such a fine line, and that's something I didn't realize growing up in relationships. And I always thought a relationship would fulfill me and make
Like
me
the
happy.
other person completes you.
Yeah. Yeah, but now I feel like you should just complement each other.
Yeah, I feel like you should also keep your individuality. Did I pronounce that right? Individual. I'm a little tipsy now, but
I'm not sober Sally. Popcorn.
But I feel like in a relationship, you should definitely maintain your individuality, because that's who you fell in love with to begin with.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because I feel like
People forget that.
Yeah,
all the
totally.
time.
Because I've totally been one of those people where you like almost like morph into each other, and you're together so much, and like, yeah, like it feels good, and you're like, oh, what are we doing this weekend? Oh, what are we gonna do? But you have to remember, like, you guys are not one unit, and in order to live a happy life, I feel like you need to be yourself. You can't just live the life of another person. You can't be just connected like conjoined twins. It just doesn't work like that in the long term, and I just feel like doing that, being codependent, will have a negative effect on your relationship, and it won't work out in the long run, and it'll just make you really unhappy.
I think people forget like who they are when they're in a relationship. Honestly, sometimes I really enjoy sitting in my room by myself, watching YouTube videos.
So did you always take like alone time or you time?
Absolutely, and I need it. Honestly, like, I love to be at home looking ugly and greasy with a face mask on, my PJs, like,
totally
stuffing my mouth and not caring how I look. Like, I need that time.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't know, in the honeymoon stage, you want to hang out every day.
Totally.
And that's totally okay, honestly. And I've been there, and it's fun, and it's fine. But honestly, even if it's just one day a week that you're like, I need to be alone, you need to learn how to make yourself happy. And that's also like what I talked about in the video I just uploaded, how like I became so dependent on the people around me to cheer me up, and I didn't know how to sit by myself anymore.
Yeah.
And that was for a short period of time. I was just going through a hard time, but everything before that, like, I knew I need this time for myself, whether it's sitting in my room looking ugly, or going to the gym, or going for a walk, hanging out with my girlfriends, like, without dudes around. I think that's so important. Because
it's so important to have your own time and your own friends and your own life, because I feel like once you like merge your whole life together, you guys just become so bored of each other, and then like, what's the point, you know? Like, and it's so hard to like go back from that and like disconnect your life. Like, I almost feel like you have to go through a breakup. And then like some people do end up getting back together, right? Some people do, and it works out for them, but I feel like that's why a lot of relationships end, is because you become way too similar, and your interests are way too similar, that it's like, okay, so like, what's cool about you now? Nothing.
Yeah.
Well, not nothing, but I'm just saying, like, it's too, you're too the same. It's not, you know, it's not realistic.
And also, guys met, you fell in love because you were two individual people.
Yeah.
So if you lose that, then what are you really in love with? I mean, obviously, in a healthy relationship,
You're in love with yourself.
Yeah, honestly, I love me more than I love anyone. Let's be real. But I think you need to take care of yourself before you can love someone else. Because I think if you're not good and you're unhappy with yourself, then it's going to project onto everyone else around you. But if you're loving yourself and you're happy with yourself, you're going to glow from within. And I think
you need to fill your cup first before you can help others.
That was really deep.
Right?
Deep. I like that.
For anyone out there who is dealing with a toxic relationship or dealing with toxic childhood patterns that were caused by trauma, how do you recommend someone move forward from that and heal from it and grow and heal their relationships?
I think for me, and this is just me speaking from my own experience, it might be different for everybody, but I think realizing that if you've gone through something traumatic, that it was traumatic, you should learn how to feel those emotions and not just push them down. Because in my past, I've definitely pushed it down or, you know, swept it under the rug and said, it's not that big of a deal, it's all good, like, get your shit together, like, seriously, stop being dramatic. But sometimes you have to sit with those feelings, and then you have to figure out how to work through it and say, okay, why did this hurt me? How is it affecting me? How can I change it? Do I want to break the cycle? Do I want to be different? Do I want to treat people how I was treated as a kid? Probably not. I think also, again, this is not for everyone, but going to therapy is honestly so helpful because
I feel like I need therapy, but like
I think everyone does.
I just don't know where to go. That's the problem. And like the thing with therapy is like I know that I've needed to go and talk to someone aside from friends, but the problem for me is like going to therapy is like finding the right person to talk to and money, because therapy is expensive as hell.
Actually, I have a full list
expensive.
I have a full list of free resources that you can use under my last video. Nice little shameless plug here for me. I can honestly give it to you. I have a physical list too, but there's a whole bunch of like free services in Winnipeg and also around the world.
I didn't even know that.
Exactly, right? It's crazy.
Is it in person?
In person. So there's short-term therapy, long-term therapy. There's so many. I'll give you a whole list of them.
I also feel like it depends on who the therapist is, because you connect with different people on different levels. And I almost feel like that's why it's almost harder to find someone, is because certain people connect with other people, and like if you go to a therapist and it's not a good experience for you, I feel like that's very discouraging.
You just have to keep trying until you find the right person. It's kind of similar to when you've heard of people who have illnesses, they go to a doctor and they say, oh, you're not going to live. And then the child ends up living till they're 50, like, you know, whatever, a good long life. So I think it's the same thing. You have to keep going until you find a good one. Same with dentists. If you have a bad dentist experience, which I have, I didn't even want to go back. I avoided going back for so long that I realized, like, hey, I got to get this under control and I need to know if I have cavities. So I had to keep searching. So I think because I've had a couple experiences where I was like, oh my god, this person does not get me at all. And I had to search. But yeah, I think honestly,
that's so true.
Everyone should go to therapy, and I don't care if you think it's stupid, but honestly,
it's not stupid.
Anywho,
yeah. I feel like we've talked about a lot of stuff today, and we really hope you guys took something out of this video. And if you really liked it, please give us a thumbs up. And also please comment, let us know what you think. Follow us on Instagram. Mine is at Nicole V with 2 E's at the end, and hers is at Taylor Francisco. So definitely give her a follow, and her YouTube channel is also the exact same. I will put a little thingy right here, a plug. We really enjoyed talking about this and sharing our experiences with you, and hopefully opening up your eyes to different possibilities. But yeah, so stay tuned for more. We will be making more videos. This is Talks with Tay.
Oh yeah, Talks with Tay. That's so cute.
Stay tuned for more. We hope to see you guys again, and yeah,
thanks for watching.
Bye.